morning, everyone, and welcome to Radio Live. It is Monday, October the 10th, 2022, and for it was a little choppy there at the beginning. We had a quick little connection hiccup, but I think we are good to go now. But welcome in, everyone, and we are excited to be here. We have a lot to talk about, and by we, I mean, of course, that lovely face on the screen you see there that's motionless, but I assure you, he is alive and well. It is John Zappe. John, good morning, and trouble in Packerland? Dare I say it?
Yes, trouble across the pond. Per usual, the Packers played one good half, which is what they do. The last three games, they've had halves where they don't score or there's 20 points. There's like no in between. And they were up 20-10 at the half. They had a 17-3 lead in the second quarter, seemed to be in complete control, and then crickets in the second half, which, again, they've done this. They had a poor first half against the Patriots, a good second half against the Patriots, a good first half against Tampa, a bad second half against Tampa. If they ever figure it out, maybe even play three good quarters, they'll be just fine. But, they're 3-2 right now. I still think they're okay because they're getting healthier, and I like to read body language a lot, and I thought Rodgers was okay yesterday, and then after the game, when I see the press conference in an upbeat mood, which for him is a rarity. I mean, he's just a negative. So I can read into that he thinks things are going to get corrected and they'll be okay. Are they the favorites in the NFC? No. But again, we're on October 10th and so much is going to happen over the next few months. But they have to play better, and he has to play better. Look, you can talk about play calls and all this other stuff. He's got to play better. He's better than the way he's played this year.
Putting any stock in, I don't know if you saw the comments after the game by Aaron Jones about him and the pair of the running backs being able to get one of those two first downs. And look, I mean, Aaron Rodgers may be upbeat, but if there is a little tension in that room, and again, you got to figure it's surprising that they couldn't pick up that first down.
Mm-hmm.
But you go back to playoff game last year. Or I'm sorry, the playoff game against the Buccaneers, and the opportunity that was there, and the mistakes made on his part, prevented a potential comeback. So, look, my biggest concern for this Packers team going into this season was I didn't think they adequately, or not even adequately, not even close to adequately, replaced the production by Davante Adams, and I'm not saying completely replicate it. That's 30 touchdowns over the last 2 years, nearly 3,000 yards. The spiel. Sammy Watkins, he made that one play, and he was supposed to be a replacement. That hasn't worked out. And they really done enough to, keep this team afloat offensively for a team, again, like I mentioned before, and I've said it a million times, they were barely a top 10 offense last season with Davante Adams. Now you're taking that element out of the mix, and look, I don't think he's played poorly, but I also don't think he's done anything spectacular, so to speak. And I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers. So not only are you losing that big play element or big advantage element in Davante Adams, but you're playing with a quarterback that even at 80% of his maximum, he's still better than just about every quarterback in the league. But now you're playing in a very, very limited capacity, so to speak. And in a league where offenses rule the league and yours is mediocre at best, I'd be concerned long term, and this is something that I just don't think is a run-of-the-mill problem. I think they need not just a kind of an adjustment. I think they need to add more talent. I mean, talk about a team that needs a player like Odell Beckham Jr. It's the Packers.
Yeah. Oh, without question, I think they have to add a wide receiver at the trade deadline. Look, you're all in on Aaron Rodgers. You're paying him $51 million. You have what I think is a good defense. Didn't really show up in the second half yesterday, but I still feel it's a good defense. You think you've cleaned up your special team, so now it falls on the offense. You can run the football, but the passing game has been very choppy so far this year. And there's a couple of things with the Packers offense. Their passing game consists of deep shots down the field, which are just like more missed than hit. Also, other than that, they throw a lot of bubble screens and quick hitters, which don't gain a lot. There's nothing going on in their passing game where they target the intermediary routes, right? Where between the numbers, where he's outstanding at that. That's where Brady has made his living, right? Those intermediate routes between the numbers. No one better than Brady. No one better than Rodgers. Those are the two guys that carve you apart from there. Very little play action. So the passing game is really, really choppy. I mean, there was one series where they just threw 3 deep passes, all incompletions, and they punted. And it gave the Giants so much momentum, and it put the Packers defense back on the field, barely getting a chance to rest on the bench. The other thing, yesterday, the Packers had 20 rushing plays for 94 yards. That's 4.7 yards per rush. That's pretty good. You can live with that. And you were leading most of that game. They threw 41 passes, or they had 41 pass plays, which averaged 5 yards per game. I would say run more than pass more. Like a 2-to-1 ratio of pass to run is not good, especially when you're getting as many yards on the rush as you are on the pass. And also the fact that you were up for most of that game, oftentimes by 2 scores. And it goes back to what Aaron Jones said. Look, 3rd and 2 from the 6, you've got a 250-pound bruiser in A.J. Dillon. Aaron Jones is one of the best all-around backs in the league. Give them an opportunity to pick it up, and now you get closer, and maybe you go from there. Kind of head-scratching play calling by Matt LaFleur, unless Aaron Rodgers is changing things at the line of scrimmage. I don't know.
Well, it's funny. We're having the exact same conversation, only the opposite, because we're arguing, or at least I've been arguing the exact opposite with the Buccaneers. More pass, less run, because we know it's effective. And look, I mean, your 2 running backs, you could argue also your 2 best pass catchers too. It's certainly Aaron Jones. And he was, I believe, 3rd on the Packers last season in reception. So, I mean, this is a guy that can do it all. And again, the comments made after the game, those are the type of comments that I'm like, I think they can get it cleaned up. I mean, again, there's going to be frustration after losses like that, especially after a loss where you travel so far and you're dealing with all the jet lag and being overseas and all that stuff. But I mean, the Packers got to clean it up, because this isn't something where it's like, okay, they'll just figure it out in November. By then it might be too late. And you might be looking at an impossible road, because do I think this team could still make it back to a Super Bowl? Yes. I mean, as much as I, joke about how they haven't been, I mean, the talent's there, the quarterback's there, they can back to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to say never, because, well, I don't know the future. And if I did, I'd be a very rich man, John. But I don't, fortunately. Not yet, at least. I'm working on that. But it may get to a point where it's like they may be looking at a situation where they have to win, 2-3 games on the road to get to a Super Bowl. And you're going to ask me to give you any confidence in them being able to do that. I can't. Like, this is a team that, and the ironic thing is this is the position they were in the last couple of years. They need to have that number 1 seed, John. This team is not good enough as it's presently constituted. Now, that can change. They can go out and sign Odell Beckham Jr. He can return to pre-ACL tear form, and this team can take off offensively and be fine. But as it's presently constituted, I do not believe this team can do anything but hopefully get a few home games in the playoffs and then maybe get into the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I'm concerned about the Packers.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the NFC, I think, is better this year than anticipated.
Yep.
You look at the NFC East. You've got Philly at 5-0, Dallas and the Giants both at 4-1.
Aside from the Bucs, because I think we both believe the Bucs are still a really good team and their flaws are very correctable. At least at this point, I think that's the feeling. But for the most part, it's all these teams that we didn't talk about at the beginning of the season. We were talking about the Rams, the Packers.
I talked about the Giants.
Right. Hey, don't make me bring up the Cleveland Browns, okay?
That's true too.
Because much like the over dramatic reaction to the worst, and I'm using my quotation marks, the worst pass interference call or roughing the passer call in NFL history. As great as your Eagles hype has been, it was equally as impressive as your miss with the Cleveland Browns last year. Just like the referees missed a very important defensive pass interference call just before the worst call ever made, and certainly one that backs up the years-long evidence that the NFL, quote unquote, favors Tom Brady. But if you can't tell by my tone, John, I'm being a little
sarcasm,
a little sarcastic, a little facetious, a little bit of a little bit of everything. But
only took 18 minutes to go there, and that surprised me.
Look. Well, I mean, we started talking about the best in the NFC, and look, the Eagles survived the Cardinals. So they're still undefeated. You have the Buccaneers moving to 3-2. Tom Brady has never been under 500 past Week 5, or hasn't been under 500 past Week 5 since the 2002 season. Think about that.
Yeah,
that's
absurd.
Crazy. That's absurd.
Yeah, it is.
So of course, naturally, he's 3-2 heading into Week 6. After what kind of like the Packers, one great half and one not so great half, and one, like I said before, and what people are calling it, and I obviously disagree, the worst John roughing the passer call in NFL history. Forget about every other thing that's happened in this league history. That was the worst, John. I mean,
yes, in 103 years. I mean, we've got that history to look back on.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
And this kind of, remember the conversation we were having last week where I was talking about, it was centered around Russell Wilson and the over-the-top positivity and the over-the-top negativity. Well, this is the same deal. And the only reason this is getting all the slack that it's getting is because it's Tom Brady. I mean, there's no two ways about it. The second it happened, I'm sitting there watching like, oh, this is gonna get a very reasonable reaction. Again, more sarcasm, folks. This is gonna get a very reasonable reaction on Twitter. And to my surprise, I actually underestimated how ridiculous the reaction was going to be, because we have, again, quote unquote, professional journalists on national media calling that play with no shame, John, no shame whatsoever, the worst call in NFL history. Like, there is a large gap. There's a huge in between from saying it was a bad call to saying it was the worst. And you can go over the top and describe how bad that call was, and it was a bad call. It shouldn't have been called. You want to know why it was called? It was called because they were overreacting to what happened to Tua, and the optics of the play made it look similar. Now, in hindsight, we realized, okay, it was kind of a weak call. Actually, it was a very bad call. No doubt about it. Just like the non-call one play before that benefited the Falcons on the defensive pass interference, on a play that was mainly defense pass interference. But, again, we're not about giving both sides or giving an accurate depiction of what's happening. And I said it yesterday, the people that are complaining and are upset, up in arms and calling this the worst play ever, all they're doing, John, is piggybacking off Tom Brady's name for attention. That's it. That's all it is. Likes and reaction. That's it. So if that was Marcus Mariota, no one's going to be like, oh, that was the worst call. And people are going to be like, who cares? It's Marcus Mariota. But it's Tom Brady. So you can sit there and say that and then follow it up with some wildly inaccurate statement about the history of calls against Tom, which, a very simple bit of research tells you he has no more or no less than every other great quarterback in terms of beneficial calls. And this reality that somehow outpaces the rest of the league is what's false, but gets a reaction, and most people will pick up their pitchforks and say, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Reality, they don't, because it doesn't exist.
Well, the ironic thing is that play that Tua got his second count on, that was the Thursday night game against Cincinnati, that wasn't called roughing the passer, right? I mean, he got slammed onto his head. Again, he's a smaller guy than Brady, all that. It was a horror call, but yeah.
Look, officiating is a problem across the league. No one's denying that. So.
And it's always going to be. You have, first of all, the average play in the NFL is what, 5 seconds? From snap to will or whatever. It's 5 seconds. You've got 22 gigantic people like just running around in a condensed area, especially when you get to the goal line, right? And what do you have? 7, 8 officials who are like 60 years old and can't see. Like, so, I mean, there's like a lot of issues with that. Basketball's difficult to officiate, but it's obviously there's fewer players and there's more of a flow to it.
Every league is difficult because it's a thankless job. Referees will never.
This is all. Yeah. There were 40, 50 million people yesterday that did what you and I did, which is like sit in a chair for 14 hours and watch football. I don't even know if that's healthy, but that's what people do.
We'll find out later in life.
Yeah, we'll find out later in life. Yeah, when I can't move my feet or whatever the case.
Hey, as long as I can't move my feet on my couch in front of my TV watching ball, I'll be all right.
You're gonna be like Daniel Lewis and my left foot. You use your left foot to change channels.
You know, on a side note, John, I think this is the longest we've ever gone without you mentioning Daniel Day-Lewis on a show. So I don't know what the official number is, but I get the feeling is that it's time in between mentions.
Well,
so.
It's something that we do agree on that he's the greatest actor ever. But I get the feeling that you must walk out of every movie and go, yeah, that performance was good, but it's not Daniel Day-Lewis. Right? Well, like you are with quarterbacks. Like, that was really good last night. But
I think I am a very reasonable, very leveled, objectionable judger of quarterback play. And I know people out there probably just fell out of the chair if they're listening.
Yeah, I would if I knew I couldn't get up.
But let me ask you something, John. Remember a couple of years ago, 2019, roughly?
Yes, I do.
Yes, good. See, it wasn't long ago. What absolute maniac was still pumping his chest about Tom Brady being the best quarterback in the league and citing not numbers, but ability as the reason why? I believe that was me. So, fast forward to yesterday. What did I hear on a lot of the pregame shows yesterday? Tom Brady's still 45, but he hasn't lost any of his zip. He hasn't lost any of his physical. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, my God, I was saying this 4 years ago and getting called an absolute homer and a, quote unquote, the go-to for people who say you are a fan of someone a little bit too much. Your imagination. I was being called every name of the book, but at the end of the day, and I mean this in all seriousness. This isn't. Well, I mean it is kind of an ego pump, but it's not the prime motivation. I'm trying to prove a point here. Was I wrong about anything?
Well, the thing is, I think the two things can be true. That he's actually not wrong 3 years ago.
Smartest man alive.
Well, I won't go there.
Okay.
But he's still among the very best quarterbacks in the league. He may be the best quarterback in the league, right? I haven't lost anything. But in fact, I think he's better than he was 3 years ago. Now, part of that may be that he has better guys to throw to than he had 3 years ago, whatever the case is. And I think he just got stale with the Patriots. At that point, with the contract situation, I think he was like, it's time for me to move on. And that happens with many great athletes. But, yeah, I mean, he's still right there. You can make that case that he's the best quarterback in football. Once again, he won a game where he threw more than 50 passes, which just blows my mind that the guy has a winning record when throwing 50 or more passes, because generally you throw 50 or more passes when you're way behind and you get some garbage touchdowns and some empty calorie stats, and it doesn't mean anything. This guy has a winning record when throwing 50 or more passes. That blows my mind, among many other things that he's accomplished. But yeah, no, he's better now than he was 3 years ago. I also think he's got some better players around him, and I think that things have just gotten stale with the Patriots by 2019. Again, when you're offered a contract where there's $5 to $10 million in incentives, right, to the greatest player in the history of the sport, I probably would check out myself. I mean, at that point, it's like, what more do you need me to prove?
They're coming off 3 straight Super. And this was always kind of funny to me because obviously everyone focused on the numbers. And, my whole point during that season was forget about the numbers. I mean, the numbers don't tell you anything. Guess what? Aaron Rodgers, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions again yesterday. Big whoop. I mean, who the hell cares? I mean, but that's something that, again, how many games does he have? That's why he's the greatest. Well, no, I mean, numbers don't tell you everything. So I'm sitting there pounding the desk. I'm like, forget about the numbers. Tell me when his arm when you can see an obvious decline where he's struggling to get the ball to certain spots, where he's not seeing things as quickly and he's not reacting as quickly. And so far, even again, through 5 games, even during those like games where they were only scoring 19 points, I'm sitting there saying like, he's fine. His arm's fine. His reaction time's fine. So as long as that's that's going, like I'm gonna concede the top spot to him moving forward. Now, going, going across the board, like I think a lot of, or going back to what I was saying before, a lot of people were, oh, you got knocked out by the Titans, and I'm like thinking like to myself, like, again, I'm not gonna fault them for losing that game, considering, like I said, they had just come off 3 straight Super Bowl appearances, John, and 4 in 5 seasons, including the one they didn't. They went to the AFC Championship game. Like, that's a lot of football. And like, there's a lot of teams that would have tapped out a long time prior to that. So, this whole idea that they were being criticized for finally losing a playoff game after winning 9 in a row, I always thought was comical. But again, that was part of the need. And this kind of ties into the whole overreaction to this penalty. It's because it's Tom Brady. And it's like, oh, I mean, he's got to fall off at some point, right?
Embrace that though. Because
I do. I love this.
The reason people talk, if that had been to pick, 28 other quarterbacks. I mean, if it was Mahomes or Rodgers or Josh Allen, I think there'd be a lot of pushback on the call. But with Brady, it goes to the next level because he's the greatest quarterback. He's been around forever, and I think what happens is too. The old guys, which, again, I'm going to be 60 in April, so I guess I qualify as this is where they go at when they say, okay, he's the greatest quarterback of different eras, right? Like, I'm watching the Fox pregame show, and Terry Bradshaw won 4 Super Bowls. And when he played, he was 6'3". I don't think he's tall right now. And a part of that, and I'm not trying to be funny here, is the fact that the guy's constantly being dumped on his head.
Yeah.
So that was a totally different sport. So look, Brady's 45. He's still awesome. He could play next year and still be awesome. But you got to look at some context there that, it is a different sport than it was all those years ago. So that's when the old dudes start to push back. But they take to another level with Sammy Baugh and Johnny Unitas. I get all that. So, but no, I mean, he's still obviously the greatest quarterback of all time. But that's where the old people go and go, and look, I'm all for players. Safety. I'd rather see Tom Brady, Aaron 50s. I think the game's better with those guys out there, right, than having them crippled and needing to have knee replacements and all that crazy stuff. But that's where the pushback comes from. But look, when you're the best at what you do, and he is, you're going to have a lot of haters out there. I see it with LeBron James. Same thing. There's a million Twitter accounts that their own sole purpose is to denigrate and downgrade LeBron James. That's all they do. Like, I don't respond to it because it's silly.
Like just like there's accounts like John Zappe 25 who are meant to just prop him up all the time.
No,
I know.
Look, you know me. I criticize.
You are almost as objective as I am when it comes to quarterbacks. So
yeah, right. You know what it is? Those are my sons, so dads have to be,
of course,
constructively,
protective.
Criticize them. Yeah, I wish they'd get a hold of me and help me out financially, but whatever. Yeah. I mean, they're both making a lot of money.
You never know.
Rogers doesn't speak to his family, so I guess I can understand.
Well, that means there's room for you,
and clearly LeBron is my biological son because of the athletic ability that he got from me.
Yes.
So yeah,
clearly, it wasn't the hairline, right?
No, I got a better hairline than LeBron. I do.
Right.
I do.
Man,
do you know what? I'm watching that game last night. Not to go off the end here.
Okay. Go for
My
it.
God, you and Joe Burrow are dead ringers. I mean, that's a compliment. Take it as a compliment. The guy's a good-looking dude. I mean, that's scary.
Well,
it's like scary how much you guys look alike.
Hopefully, maybe I can trick the people at the bank thinking that too when I go to make a withdrawal because I happen to be going to live abroad.
Well, you gotta wear the suit he wears. The very cool suit that he wears. The nice sunglasses, the chain. But I'm just looking at him last night and I go, my Lord, that's like uncanny how much you guys look alike.
Well, like I said, when our bank accounts are alike, then I'll be more impressed.
You'll get there.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me go back in time. You said you're about to be 60. I'm about to be 36. And let me tell you, I do not feel like a 36-year-old Tom Brady. I feel like a 36-year-old, I don't know. Name whatever all those photos from 36-year-old quarterbacks in the past that look like they're like 65.
Oh, like Gene Conley, 32-year-old guy that's bald.
They look like they've worked in like the coal mine their whole lives,
Right? Yeah, exactly. Len Dawson smoking a cigarette on the sideline.
Oh man, But all kidding aside, I do find myself to be very objective when it comes to quarterbacks. And look, it's not just just agree with me and move on, John. Okay,
I will.
That's what you get paid to do.
Yes.
But no, I mean, look, even when it comes to, I feel like I was a little ahead of the curve when it comes to the Russell Wilson criticism. I was saying a lot of the same stuff I was saying last year, at the beginning of last year. Even again, you may think it's over the top, you may think it's criticism and unfair, but even the things I said about Patrick Mahomes game before the Super Bowl against the Bucks, about creating his own pressure and things of that nature. Voila, guess what has come out? Support my point of view, John. So I don't really have a point. I just continue to prop myself up, have a good time doing so. But maybe the point is, I'm not, I do like to watch the quarterbacks play, and I do take it seriously, and I have fun with it. Yes, and of course, right now, obviously, I'm having a little bit on, although there's a lot of truth in what I'm saying, John.
Yes,
I do enjoy evaluating the quarterback game because I think it's by far the most important position in this sport, and the most impactful from top to bottom. Tonight's matchup, will be interesting. I'm more banking on maybe a divisional wrinkle. You know what I mean? Like, okay, Raiders, Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are definitely better than the Raiders. I think obviously they have a better quarterback, but hopefully maybe you're going to get like one of those tight division, unpredictable matchups, a la the NFC. Yesterday, though, before we get to that, I saw again another really great performance from Jalen Hurts. I believe he's tied for the league lead in rushing touchdowns, which is impressive, not just for quarterbacks, but for every quarterback. Josh Allen. I mean, this is what I say because again, this is what's great about the league. Okay, it's week to week, which means not only are you going to get the excitement of building up for games every single week, but you're also going to get the reaction and the over the top back and forth that comes with it, and that's part of the territory. So, last whatever it was Sunday night when people were saying that it would be possible for anyone as good as Patrick Mahomes, but hey, whatever. It's part of the overreaction we saw. I look at Josh Allen. I'm like, man, that guy completed what 270 plus touchdown passes, and like, I mean, when he is on the top game, like that guy throws the ball with like so much force and power. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's like I can't describe it. His arm goes back to throw. It's like what's his face from what that kid's. I'm completely blanking on names of everything. Apparently, I don't even know who I am right now, John. To be honest with you, but
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow, right. Yeah, if I say it enough, maybe it'll become true. No, the kid was a Rookie of the Year. That movie where he breaks his arm and his arm like cocks back, and you can hear it like crank up and then throw up.
Oh right, yeah.
That's what it feels like when Josh Allen, that's what it feels like to me when he's doing that. But then on top of it, I mean, he runs as well as a guy like Lamar Jackson, who I think is the best running, in the league. So, impressive. Each week we see a great performance after great performance from all these great quarterbacks, and I think that's the most exciting thing about this league right now is that we do have a lot of great young quarterbacks. If you're going to ask me who's the best of the best, I mean, again, I'll give the edge to Patrick Mahomes, but ask me in 2 years, and I honestly don't know if I have an answer. I really don't.
That pass he made to Gabe Davis,
oh my God,
traveled 70 yards in the air, was right on his hands, and Minka Fitzpatrick had good coverage there. In fact, it looked like he was going to intercept it. He threw that ball 70 yards, and I know it was kind of a windy, blustery day in Buffalo, which it is like 12 months out of the year. I don't know which way the wind was blowing. I don't care which way the wind was blowing. He threw that 70 yards and he kind of flicked it. Yeah. Normally if you see a guy throw 70 yards, they have to kind of run up to the line of scrimmage and heave it like a javelin. I saw that and I'm like, holy crap. I told you, he's the closest thing, and he's right there in terms of pure physical ability. I'm not saying, finished product, whatever. It's to John Elway. John Elway used to make throws like that all the time, and John Elway could also run like that. That's why the comparison is there. Yeah, I mean, this guy is spectacular. I mean, next week's game is going to be Buffalo at Kansas City. That is going to be major, right? You got two big, huge games next week. You've got Buffalo at Kansas City. You got Dallas at Philadelphia. This is for like big time seeding potentially going forward. Those are going to be two really interesting games.
I thought you were going to bring up Bailey Zappe's second career start. 29-0, John. How about that?
Yeah. How about that?
Detroit
Lions. How have you ever seen this before, Ian? A team got shut out, did not attempt a field goal, and only had 2 punts. Like, how do you put that in a blender? How did that work? Well, Dan Campbell going for 6 fourth downs. I mean, that game was 6-0 late in the second quarter. It was a game for a while, and then he decided.
I know they had some kicker issues, so I'm not completely faulting him. Like I don't think he was being Brandon Staley aggressive just to be aggressive. Like, there were some kicker issues. I think the first attempt would have been a very long field goal. So it was really kind of a situation. Look, I mean, we've talked about this all season. The Patriots defense is pretty good. And I know it's the Lions, but you're talking about a team that over the course of 4 weeks was scoring 35 points a game, and they got shut out. Okay? I don't care how you slice it. That's impressive. I really liked the way Bailey Zappe played. Now, pump the brakes, everyone. And I knew this was going to happen. Does he take over the job for Mac Jones? No, he doesn't. But I think this is, on a whole, showing you what this offense is trying to accomplish. They're a very ball control offense. They're not going to do anything overly spectacular. But if they clean up the mistakes, John, they can win some football games. Doesn't mean that they're going to go to the Super Bowl. But it could mean another playoff appearance and possibly maybe double-digit wins. But the big thing is cleaning up the turnovers. And what they did yesterday was not turn the ball over and play, once again, great defense. And look, you can make an argument that Jack Jones, one hell of a draft pick. How about that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And on the flip side, look at J.C. Jackson in Los Angeles. System cornerback.
Well, he's coming off a surgery. So.
I know. But it's the first time we've seen this. The Patriots, again, there's a lot of draft picks when it comes to backs and some of these other, wide receivers. I mean, those are the two things that apparently all that matter when it comes to grading of the drafting ability. But they've been remarkably good at later round defensive. Like, think about some of the guys that made plays yesterday. Kyle Duggar. Remember when he got drafted? A Division II who? What? Kyle Duggar. God, must be the worst draft pick in Patriots history until Cole Strange in a few years. Meanwhile, Cole Strange looks pretty darn good. Right? Like, he looks like the Patriots might know what they're doing when it comes to drafting, and folks sitting at home on Twitter don't. Just saying it,
Well, no, I mean, Jack Jones has been sensational. I mean, he had pick 6 against Aaron Rodgers, a huge pick off of Jared Goff yesterday when that was a game.
Yeah.
The Lions go in there and score. They take the lead.
That was the swing right there, I think. I think that was the thing that really put everything in favor for the Patriots. So.
Yep. That was the biggest play of the game. And then obviously the strip sack fumble caused by Matthew Judon, who's playing at a ridiculously high level, and then Duggar picking the ball up, and it's 13-0, and now it's over. But yeah, no, Jack Jones has been really, really good. Look, that's Belichick's wheelhouse. When he first started, he started as a coach in 1975. Just think about that. I was 12 years old when he was coaching in the NFL. His two things were special teams and also defensive backfield. Like that's, I think every head coach not only has a favorite side of the ball, obviously with Belichick it's defense, but they all have like a position that they feel favored about. That's like where they earn their keep. And with Belichick, it was the secondary. I mean, when he came back here in 1996 after Cleveland let him go, he was an assistant coach under Parcells, coaching the defensive backs, and he did great work with Ty Law, a rookie by the name of Lawyer Malloy, Otis Smith. I mean, that secondary was really good, and he did a lot to, improve those players. That's his thing, right? So his ability to draft guys and develop them, I think, is unquestioned. And you're going to have these misses. I get it. It seems like he's better off drafting guys past the second round than in the second round. Jack Jones, I think, was a third-round pick, and obviously J.C. Jackson was a seventh-round pick. Heck, Malcolm Butler was an undrafted free agent. So Yeah, I mean the series is looked good, and there's another big game next week at Cleveland. You've got a stretch here, Ian, where you can win all of these games.
Mm-hmm.
You can also lose some of them. It's what the NFL is all about. But at Cleveland, then you host Chicago, then who now are 3-2, and then you got Indianapolis coming in. Has Matt Ryan a quarterback?
Are they just the best team of that mix?
Yeah,
like I'm being serious.
No.
Like I think they might be the best
too.
team of all those, which is crazy to think because
they've had 3 straight pretty good drafts.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, by all accounts, these guys are legit. I mean, they can run the ball with Bryce Hall. I like Zach Wilson because I think he's entertaining to watch. Going to win much. I mean, he's a bit of a loose cannon out there. I hope he's not Johnny Manziel part 2. I think he's more talented. But
no, I think he'd be a little bit more mentally that not. I'm not saying like mentally. I'm saying in a football standard.
He's more
composed.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're building the offensive line, the defensive line. Robert Saleh's look. This is the modern coach who is just like a bro on the sideline, who's jumping around, high-fiving people. This is the way the league is now. You want to bring a coach in that's going to get guys to play, and they're playing. They're 3-2. I think you're right, Ian. I think out of this stretch that you get till bye week, that the Jets are probably the best team they're going to face.
But on the flip side, I think the Patriots are better than the Jets. Like, again, I've seen enough from the defense to know that this is a good defensive unit. Their biggest flaw is it's not that they turn the ball over a lot. This isn't like some historic, like, I mean, in terms of Belichick coach teams, it is outpacing. I think the stat they put up yesterday was that they have more turnovers per drive or play or whatever than any team in Belichick history. And look, there's a reason for that. You don't have Tom Brady. I mean,
exactly.
The answers are so obvious sometimes when people want to say, "Oh, well, it's this." It's no. It's because you don't have Tom Brady. So of course you're going to go through that period of time where you're trying to find it with a young quarterback, or a lesser talented quarterback in the case of say Brian Hoyer, or at the time of him being here, Cam Newton, where it's like, okay, because of your lesser abilities, you're going to turn the ball over more, which means the team's going to lose more games. Like, this team is really good defensively. They don't have enough talent offensively, particularly at the quarterback position, and it's not a fault of Mac Jones. It's just, again, the difference between Brady and what you have now. They don't have enough talent to overcome a bunch of turnovers. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, so this team has to play really good football, and I think particularly this season, not only – it's not, like I said, it's not that they turn the ball over a lot. It's like when they do, I feel like they've picked the worst possible times to turn the ball over. Like, they've had like the biggest impact. And again, maybe this is just perception, because I don't know if it like they've allowed the most points off turnovers or what have you. But I feel like the momentum swings, the timing, like you can have, like, look, if you huck up an interception at the end of the half, so be it. It's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
If you do so and you're driving, like, what was it, a few weeks ago, they're driving and about to score and they throw a pick six. I mean, that's all. Again, that's just absolutely backbreaking turnovers and not your regular run-of-the-mill turnover. So if the Patriots can just clean that up, and it's possible, they're going to be a pretty good team. So I do think that they're better than the Jets, but I do find it funny that of those teams that you mentioned, that the Jets are going to be the toughest game over that stretch. It's just I'm just not used to saying that.
Yeah, we've gone back to like 2009 or 2010, right? It's a decade ago when the Jets were a really good team, made back-to-back AFC championship games. But as far as the turnovers, obviously that's a big concern because, like you said, they don't have that quick strike ability offensively. Look, Buffalo had 4 turnovers on opening night, and they still won 31-10 because they can overcome that. They're like the heavyweight champ. I know they haven't won anything, but I'm just making an analogy. They're like the heavyweight champ that just can floor you with one punch, right? Because they're so potent and powerful. Look what they did to Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh's not that good this year, but I thought they had a decent defense. I didn't think that, Buffalo could name its score yesterday. Heck, Josh Allen played nap in the fourth quarter. That was it. yeah, so you can overcome turnovers when you've got that type of ability. The Patriots, it's more of a ball control type of offense. Although I do like their wide receivers, and I think maybe tie it together with what the Packers might look for. Doesn't it make sense that if the Packers go acquire a wide receiver, that they probably call the New England Patriots? Because the Patriots have a bunch of receivers. Look, Jacoby Myers to me is their best receiver, right? I mean, the guy's just so productive. I know he's a chain mover. He's not a deep threat, but they've got like 5 legitimate wide receivers we don't need because you're more of a ball control 2 tight end offense. Although, obviously John Smith is out for a bit. Maybe that's a connection. And I know the 2 front offices have a good relationship. Elliot Wolf, who works for the Patriots, used to work in Green Bay, and we know Belichick is in love with the Packers and Aaron Rodgers and all that stuff. So, if they're going to trade a wide receiver at the trade deadline, maybe Green Bay could be the connection.
No, it could be. I just, I don't know if it would be enough though, because wouldn't that just be like another Alan Lazard?
Yeah, which is an improvement. Though.
It is. No, it's an improvement, but
he only trusts Randall Cobb, who's 104 years old. Yeah. That'd be like having, Brady calling Deion Branch to come to Tampa.
Now.
Love him.
like
now.
Right this second.
Or Julian Edelman. We love these guys. They're awesome, but they're also ancient. So, yeah, he's looking – but it would be some improvement. And, again, the 2 kids, Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, it's going to take time. It may not be till next year that he's comfortable with them, if he's ever comfortable with them. Yeah. Lazard's good, but OBJ makes the most sense, right? But does OBJ want to spend 3 months in Green Bay? I don't know. Yeah. They do have heated homes in Green Bay last time I checked.
He's doing his own world tour. He's been connected to pretty much every contending team the last couple weeks. So we'll see. But listen, when it comes to need, necessity, like I find better fits for Odell Beckham Jr. Like, look, obviously, if Julio Jones is not healthy, he'll have a better opportunity playing with the Buccaneers. Yeah. Let's be fair. So, but there's no team that probably needs him more than the Packers right now. And part of it is, again, just no other option when it comes to getting the most out of this receiving group and time. You talk about, maybe they'll be ready next year. Well, again, how much longer do you have with Aaron Rodgers? And again, how much longer do you have with elite, separate himself from the rest of the pack type play from Aaron Rodgers? And that's a question that I think the Packers are willing to discuss and willing to act if necessary. Like, let's not pretend like the Packers wouldn't pull the trigger early if, say, the season continues to go the way it's going, and there's a lot of struggles on offense. There's obviously kind of a step back in play from Aaron Rodgers and maybe a little bit of dysfunction and animosity. Do you think the Packers are going to sit there and cater to Rodgers? No, they'll move on, just like they did with Brett Favre. You know what I mean? Like, this is an organization who, obviously loves their players, but are not going to be emotionally trapped in continuing to do what they do at the expense of the franchise as a whole.
But they felt at the time back in 2008 that they had the ready-made replacement in Aaron Rodgers for Brett Favre, right? So
did anyone think Aaron Rodgers or Aaron Rodgers was Aaron Rodgers?
No, I don't think you could think that. No, absolutely not. But they thought he was going to be good. I don't think they think Jordan Love can play in the league.
Well, I don't know. I think discourse around quarterbacks are a lot different than it was 15, 20 years ago. I think it's far less. I think it's far more irresponsible. Again, going back to the top of the hour that we started talking about this, it's just an overreaction. So I think the discourse around Rodgers sat for 3 seasons. Imagine what the talking points would be around Aaron Rodgers right now if he had to sit on the bench for 3 seasons. Like, why can't he make the field? Why can't he not play? Is he not good enough? Blah, 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 blah. So now in the era of more prominent social media and this idea that in journalism you have to be reactionary as opposed to being factuary, this is what you're getting. So I don't know if...
Is that a word? That's a good word, factuary. I like that.
You know what? I don't know if it's a word or not. I kind of just went with it because it actually sounded right. So
I like it. I like it.
It does. I'll talk to Webster's when they are here. But yeah, so to me, it's. I don't know if the discourse is going to be any different. I don't know if they believe in Jordan Love or not. You know what I'm saying? Like they could have as much belief in Jordan Love as they did in Aaron Rodgers, and we would have no idea because the way things are covered now versus when they were when Aaron Rodgers was on the bench is totally different. So
yeah, and also the other thing you got to factor in is money. So the appeal of having a young quarterback is the track, so you can spend money on other players. Like that's so appealing. Like let's take advantage of this young quarterback. We're paying him $7, $8, $9 million so we can spend money on our pass rusher, our wide receivers, etc. So that factors in. It wasn't quite like that back 15 years ago when Rodgers was backing up Brett Favre. So that is a big factor as well. And look, I'm assuming, and again, I don't think it's a high degree of difficulty to assume that Rodgers is a pain in the butt, right? So, I mean, probably part of them is like, we'd love to move on from this guy, but he's so damn good. He makes us relevant, and we don't know much about Jordan Love. The times he's played, he's looked, but that is a factor at that point. But if they're all in, then they do have to go get a wide receiver. I think that's going to happen. And the name that pops up the most is Odell Beckham Jr., who is going to be linked to Kansas City, Buffalo, Tampa, and Green Bay, and the Rams. Those are the 5 teams that you're going to hear about because what are they in common? Well, the 4 best quarterbacks in the league play there, and then also is where he lives and won a Super Bowl last year. So those are going to be the 5 teams that the rumor mill is going to be focused on with Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah, and look, I mean, all good options for him because they all have good to quarterbacks. In the case of Matt Stafford, I didn't know.
Man, did that guy look? He looks like he checked out, didn't it?
No, he looked like he was with the Lions. I mean, this is who he was with the Lions. I mean, he is no different. I mean, to say a tiger doesn't change stripes, well, if a lion had stripes, they wouldn't change them either, and Matt Stafford isn't changing his. So real quick, we got like 30 seconds left. Is there a way the Raiders win this game tonight against Kansas City? Because I'm assuming we both taking Kansas City in this game.
Yeah, we are, but with the point spread, I like with 7.5 points. I think there's a chance. Like the Raiders can't put points on the board, finding their offense the previous week against Denver, which has a good defense. The other thing too is they should have a better pass rush than they've exhibited this year, and I think that is obviously a recipe to try to contain Patrick Mahomes. I think Kansas City wins, the Raiders cover, but if the Raiders can pull off this upset, Ian, 22 of the 32 teams in the league will have either 2 or 3 wins, which is just like mind blowing to me. It really, really, that's how close the league is right now. But yeah, you would think Kansas City at home on a Monday night gets the job done. But the Raiders won there a couple of years ago. They don't seem to be intimidated going into Kansas City.
Well, it'll make for a very entertaining game. That's all I hope for tonight. Let's do that. All right, that's going to do it for us. Joel says there's no way the Raiders win. Well, guess what, Joel? I hope you're wrong. But seriously, I need roughly 80 points fantasy-wise from Devontae Adams tonight, and somehow nothing from Derek Carr. So all my fantasy experts out there, somehow you do the math and figure out how I can possibly win my matchup this week. Because
what are you, the Pittsburgh Steelers of fantasy? Like, wow.
My God, I'm bad. I am steamrolling to 0-5 right now. It is pathetic. I'm embarrassed. If I was the owner of my team, I would fire myself. Let's just put it that way. So, but unfortunately, I cannot fire myself. At this point, my only hope, the only thing I'm hoping for is that I do not lose the last place game. That's it. That's all I have to do. I don't care if I don't win a single game the entire season. As long as I don't lose the last place game, I can at least face my family and, without shame. But that's a long ways from now. That's several weeks from now. We'll get into that in November, December. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Give us a follow on Twitter at FullPressNFL and go over to FullPressCoverage.com for all the great content over at the website. And we will be back tomorrow to break down this Monday Night Football game. So thank you, everyone, and we'll talk to you then.